Good evening, councillors, officers and members of the public. Welcome to this meeting of the Democracy and Standards Committee. Please be aware that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed to the Council's YouTube channel, and I welcome viewers joining us online. I will run through some housekeeping rules. Can I request that mobile phones are either set to silent or switched off for the duration of the meeting, and that microphones are muted when not speaking. We do not have a scheduled fire drill, so if the alarm does sound, please leave the chamber via the nearest fire exit, which is either of the double doors. A member of staff will lead you out of the building to our fire assembly point next to the car park and swimming pool. Right, do we have any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies from Councillor Ashall.
Okay, just Ashall, okay. Right, do we have any declarations of interest with regards to any items on this evening's agenda? I would be surprised if we do, but, we do.
It's not so much a declaration, I think, relevant to this, but in terms of my interests aren't yet on the website, and a number of other members here aren't either. I'm assuming we don't need to declare those. Those are officially registered, even if they don't appear yet on the website.
Yes, that's correct, and I have, as monitoring officer, reviewed all of those interests that have been provided to me as monitoring officer. We are in the process of uploading those onto the website.
Okay, thank you, Camilla.
I've just opened my own business as of the 1st of June, but it's provision of HR services, so I'm not sure if that needs to be declared. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're all done? Okay. Right, I'd like to introduce the minutes of the previous meeting. Ask if anyone has any queries in relation to the accuracy of the minutes. I'm not sure who was actually here for that meeting. I think we've only got the one councillor. So, are we happy with those minutes as a true and accurate record of the meeting? Then can I have a proposer and a seconder, and all those in favour of the minutes? Okay, so we're okay for me for me to sign these, okay.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Fairhall. There is a report which is presented to this committee on a 6-monthly basis, so you will be receiving that at the August meeting, where you'll receive the update on that. There has been closed down on the complaints, but as at the time of writing of that last report, there was further that came through. So there's the general churn that you would expect. And as I say, that's on the future work programme and will be considered at the August meeting.
You happy with that, councillor? Okay. Right, I'm now going to ask Camilla Coulson-Patel, our Director of Legal Services and Monitoring Officer, to introduce the terms of reference and work programme for the following year.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everybody. For those of you who don't already know me, my name is Camilla Coulson-Patel, and I'm the Director of Law and Governance and the Monitoring Officer. I bring to you this evening this report which outlines the terms of reference of this committee, recognising that this is the first committee of this new administration that we've had. I trust that members have had the opportunity to read the papers in advance and fully understand the work and the remit of this committee. One of the things that we wanted to bring to you today was around the future work programme, and that is shown at Appendix B of the report, and I believe starts at page 19. So as we've just touched on with Councillor Fairhall there are certain standard agenda items that we look to bring throughout the meeting programme. So on the 14th of August, it's anticipated that we will bring to this committee an update on the Community Governance Review, together with the Independent Remuneration Panel on member allowances, as well as a standing agenda item that we bring on a 6-monthly basis on the Code of Conduct updates. In November, it's anticipated that we may be in a position to provide an update on the changes to legislation around remote attendance and proxy voting. For those members who may have watched meetings back from earlier in the year, there was a consultation through government around the viability and feasibility of remote meetings and proxy voting. Recently, there has been an announcement by government to say that they're minded to make this legislation, in that it will allow councils to determine locally what their arrangements may be. So that, if the timeline is anticipated for November, or it's feasible, we will bring that as a report then. Now, if that legislation isn't forthcoming in that time, we will look to adjust that, but I wanted to highlight that that was coming up. We also have the annual review of the Constitution and the Monitoring Officer annual update and the Code of Conduct updates. Now, these agendas are intended to be very agile to react to any changes in legislation, changes in best practice or common themes. So if we take the Code of Conduct updates as an example, when you receive that report back in August, you may say that there's certain areas that, as your monitoring officer, you direct me to do a fuller piece of work, such as councillor training on social media, more of a deep dive around access to information. That will come out of that session, and again, we'll look to bring that forward. I would just like to highlight, Chair, that it isn't actually included in that report, but I would like it recording for the benefits of the meeting. The minutes of the meeting, that I would like to bring a DBS report as well, councillors and DBS checks. So that was another area that was considered best practice, and it was anticipated that there would be some legislative reform to follow on that, but that hasn't been followed up on in the last couple of years. So I would like to bring that as a report to the November meeting, together with a comprehensive review of the Constitution for the meeting on the 14th of August. Now, members may find that that seems a little odd or at odds with the annual review of the Constitution that we have in February. What I'd like to highlight is the monitoring officer. I regularly review the Constitution, and there are certain elements that are in need of review, and it would be remiss of me to wait until the meeting in February to bring those forward, and I'd very much welcome the input of this committee as well as full council at the appropriate timing to approve any changes that might arise from that. Chair, the recommendations are detailed within the report at paragraph 3.4, inviting members to note that, but I would also to note the terms of reference, but I would also like to invite any comments that members may have on the future work programme at this stage. Thank you.
Do we have any members?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the report. Just a couple of notes. Well, actually, one note about the forward plan or the plan for the meetings. Polling stations, obviously the next time that we'd normally review that would be coming up to the next sort of election. I don't know whether it would be pertinent to review it while things are fresh and while any sort of issues. I've had a couple of councillors raise with me why certain venues are being used, and it might be useful to do that while it's fresh. But yes, other than that, I think there's other things that I'll bring up at the relevant time when we look at the Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'd be happy to feed that back to our elections manager and add that on. We're certainly doing a lot of reflection work following the elections, and it would be helpful to capture that as early as possible.
Do we have any other councillors who'd like to make comments or questions?
I noticed in the agenda item it talks about training, and it talks about either supplying it, advising it, or arranging it, not just for us as NNC councillors, but also for those representatives on towns and parish councils. Am I right in saying going forward there is still going to be a parish forum?
There hasn't been a firm decision on that. It's certainly within our constitution and outside bodies, and the team that lead on that certainly haven't expressed any views that that wouldn't be in place.
Okay. 'Cause I'm just wondering whether, certainly from the perspective of towns and parish councils, if we were to ask them that question, what sort of training they would like or they feel they need. So, for example, I can remember 4 years ago the point was brought up about planning training. And there was a lot of new councillors who didn't necessarily know, certainly from a parish and town council's perspective, how to constructively reply to planning applications, and through that you've come up with a method over the last 4 years that has helped them move forward on those aspects. So it's all very well us saying, but we sort of need to ask from the coalface as well.
Councillor Fairhall?
Just on that point about training, there is obviously North Hampshire Calc who have quite an extensive training programme as well. So it may well be that the sort of support might be better through them rather than necessarily us organising ours and leaving them to organise theirs, which sounds sort of as though that doesn't sound very partnership working. That's just a thought. My question was also actually also going to be about training in terms of the terms of reference refers to sort of being members of this group having completed relevant training. We are now in this committee, and I'm not sure amongst all the inductions that we had so far whether or not any of that might count as the relevant training to be a member of this group, and therefore what is the plan for schedule for that, to know that we're complying with our terms of reference.
I'm pleased to confirm that the training has been undertaken in that respect. For standards and democracy, it's quite generic in that training focus. However, you do have a specific function, as you'll have seen in the terms of reference, around hearing panels. And for that reason, we do create a sort of a training programme for that as and when those items come up. I do like to include it as part of the work programme, the training programme that sits outside of this. But then we tend to do refreshers as and when, because there can be quite a lag, which is great news for NNC and the councillors at NNC, as well as our town and parish councils. But we recognise that there's usually a need for a refresher, that what you do today may need to be refreshed come February next year, should you be asked to sit on a hearing panel. We do look at a member training programme as well. So some of the things that I like to bring as the monitoring officer outside of the meetings is a discussion around the complaints process and what does that mean and how effective that is. Because I think that really informs members around their roles, their responsibilities, but also promotes the engagement that you can have as a committee in terms of highlighting areas for improvement and what works well.
Do we have any other, again, go?
Chair, through you, can I just address Councillor Fairhall? In regards to NCALC, not all parish and town councils are members, just so you're aware, which is why they came to us to ask for some training to do with planning.
Chair, if I may, just to provide some clarification on that, that has been a point of contention for this committee and in former years across councillors. What I would like to highlight is there's very good engagement between both myself and NCALC, but also to make sure that those councils who are not represented, that I have that engagement with them. So if there's any partnership or working or training opportunities to be delivered through the monitoring officer, we look to make sure that that casts as wide a membership as possible. We will always explore the opportunity for co-delivering training, but as Councillor Fairhall's indicated, NCALC do have a very good training programme in place. But if there's anything that we can do, certainly for me as the monitoring officer or my wider team, to support that messaging and support clerks and councillors at a town and parish level, we'd always be open to exploring that.
Okay, thank you, Camilla. Go on again, Councillor Fairhall.
A different point in terms of, under the terms of reference, it refers to subcommittees. This is point 5.3.1 and working groups 5.6. And it doesn't state that they need to be politically balanced. In a sense, I'm trying to understand that in the context of the next agenda item, which also then later refers to working group sits outside the provisions of the Local Government Act. So my question is around that whole sort of appointment of committees, subcommittees and working groups based on the political balance that appears to not be required officially, but appears to be the process by which it's determined in practice, and just trying to understand sort of the context of that.
Through you, Chair. So a subcommittee has to be politically balanced, a working group doesn't. And I've got that covered in my introduction to the next item as well. So we'll cover that off there.
Okay, thank you, Ben. And again,
Just one observation. On page 10, 4.5, Thursday the 16th April, I'm assuming it means 7 o'clock, not 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Is that correct?
We are still looking at the meeting dates. That may actually be correct. There were some challenges with booking the council chamber, would you believe it, that far in advance. There will be some revisions to all of the committee sort of timings, and we would look to republish that for members. I can ask one of my committee officers to confirm that outside of this meeting, of course.
Thank you.
any more questions or observations?
Very quick question, Chair. I assume that there will be flexibility that if something unexpected happens, then a meeting would be put in at short notice to discuss the urgent business.
Any more questions or observations? Okay, are we happy that I move to the recommendation then? It is recommended that the Democracy and Standard Committee notes the terms of reference for the committee as set out in Appendix A to this report. Do I have a proposer for this recommendation? Do I have a seconder for this recommendation? Can we please take a vote on accepting the recommendation? That's carried. Okay. Right, if we can now move on to the Constitutional Working Group, and if I can ask Ben Smith, who is Head of Democratic Services, to present his report to the committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. This item is the Constitutional Working Group. During the previous council, which ran from 2021 to 2025, this committee was supported by a Constitutional Working Group, of which Councillor Fedorovich was a member. And the primary responsibility of that group was to assist the monitoring officer in keeping the council's constitution under review. This report seeks to re-establish that group with a membership drawn from this new committee membership following the recent elections. As Camilla referenced in the previous report, the Council's scheme of delegation provides the monitoring officer with delegated authority to make minor administrative changes to the Constitution to ensure legal compliance with changes in the law, changes to the Council's management structure, or other changes with no significant impact. Any proposed changes to the Constitution that do not fit into the monitoring officer's delegated powers would first be considered by the Constitutional Working Group, with recommendations proposed for consideration at this committee. The committee would then recommend any proposed changes that it is in agreement to full council for final decision, because full council is the ultimate arbiter for the Constitution. Further to Councillor Fairhall's question a few moments ago, the working group is not a formal committee and is not open to the public. It is designed to enable informal and productive discussion between members and officers. You'll see at Appendix A the draft terms of reference. Within that, we have recommended a small group of 5 members. Small groups tend to promote efficiency and effectiveness. And the recommendation is 3 members drawn from the majority Reform group, 1 from the largest Conservative opposition group, and 1 from the second largest Green opposition group. Having said that, I'll reconfirm that the group does not need to be politically balanced, so it is up to the committee to decide the makeup that it so desires. So the recommendations in this report are at section 3.1, which are to approve the revised terms of reference at Appendix A, subject to comments to be made by this committee, agreeing the membership of the group for 25-26, agreeing a chair for the group, and with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, do we have any queries or comments on Ben's speech? We're all clear about the makeup? Okay.
I need to say, as one of the only people, well, only person in the room that has been on it previously, I'm happy to stay on it if that's helpful, but I'm also happy to let other people have a go. So I'm very open to either way. But thank you.
Any other questions, observations? Okay. Oh, sorry.
Just an observation about the point around notes, action points will be made available to other members and the public upon request. So can I put in now a request that I would be keen to see those notes, but equally I think it wouldn't be a bad thing for those notes to be published in some form, even if there was just as a note within a report. I just think it's good practice for sort of committees, subcommittees, working groups to be seen to be visible. I recognise that could mean lots of meetings, so understand if there's a pushback from that, but I think it is good practice, and I think it ought to be followed where possible. But say, recognise the challenges of lots of papers onto website, and you'll probably tell me that the only people who look at that are the geeks, myself included.
Any further questions, observations? Okay, are we happy that we move to a vote on recommendation A then? It is recommended that the Democracy and Standards Committee approves the revised terms of reference for the Constitutional Working Group as set out at Appendix A to this report. Do we need to carry out a separate vote on each? Okay. Then Section B agrees the membership of the Constitutional Working Group for 25-6 and agree a chair of the Constitutional Working Group for 25-26. Do I have a proposer for the recommendation? And a seconder? Okay, thank you. I now ask for a vote in favour of the recommendation. Okay, so the recommendation is accepted. Now we need to move to appointing the 5 people. Do we do this at this meeting? Or? Okay.
Yeah, we would propose to agree the membership and the chair of the working group outside of the meeting in consultation with the groups. If that's okay with you, Chair?
Okay, so that's to be decided at a later date now. Okay. Right, so I don't believe we've had any urgent items addressed to you, Camilla. Then I think we can close the meeting at whatever the time is. 7:24, we can close the meeting. And thank you for your attendance.